significant numbers. What can you do as AG? So the news of the last few weeks has been really anxiety about ICE nationally and even here in Arizona, even though ICE has not shown up in significant numbers. What can you do as AG if or when ICE shows up here in significant numbers like they have in other states?
Well, first of all, I believe they are showing up. I think the ramp up is starting here in Arizona. We can actually see it next door. The ICE building is literally right next door to this building. We are watching them bring in more agents. They just unloaded 2 truckloads of cars, both marked and undercover, next door. So it's clear to us that they're bringing in additional officers, agents, whatever they're calling them, because they're very poorly trained. We think, based on what we're seeing go into the building across the street, upwards of 30 to 50 new ICE officers. Again, I put that in air quotes because I don't think they're real law enforcement, based on their lack of training going into that building. So the buildup is starting. Obviously, it's nowhere near what is going on in Minneapolis, but we will be watching that very closely, and there are a number of things that we will be doing to protect the people of Arizona.
There was a video on social media of a car carrier with a bunch of ICE SUVs.
Yeah.
Is that what you saw? A car carrier pulling in there?
It's my understanding that our agents saw that coming in over the weekend here next door in their building. So sadly, we share a landlord, so we though have an opportunity to see what's going on over there. And I guess my message to ICE as they ramp up here in Arizona is, number one, I hope they don't, because we don't need them here. We certainly don't need badly trained ICE officers in this state. And on that point, I would add, based on our understanding, they receive, less than half the training that the average Phoenix Police Department new officer gets. PPD gets 700 hours of training. That's, I think, something like 17 weeks. ICE officers are only getting about 6 at most weeks of training. They're getting less than half, and probably even less than that, than your basically trained Phoenix Police Department officer, and that's just not enough. So I guess my overall message to ICE is, we are watching you. If you violate an Arizona law, I will prosecute you, we will investigate you, and we will make sure that Arizona laws are enforced. That includes assault, murder, unlawful imprisonment, and other state crimes.
So those kinds of investigations in Minnesota, at least, I don't know, maybe Oregon as well, haven't gone very far because the feds aren't cooperating.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we have our own agents here inside this building. I have 60 sworn police officers here in my building at my command, and we intend to enforce the law in the state of Arizona. Now, do I think it's going to be easy? No. I mean, there is federal supremacy, and what we would be prosecuting and investigating would be anything that is outside the scope of the regular duties of a federal agent. But such as assault and murder. You cannot murder somebody in the state of Arizona. You cannot assault a protester, for instance, who is peacefully protesting. And so we will investigate those instances if they happen. I hope that they do not happen. The other thing that I want to say to ICE is, keep your hands off of our tribal members. We recently learned of this incident involving a Navajo man who was detained in, I think, between Peoria and Sun City. There was a Navajo man detained in New Mexico also in the last week, apparently because of the color of his skin. He also, these individuals, I believe, presented tribal ID and state ID, and nevertheless they were detained. So we are looking at all of our options here at the Attorney General's office to try to protect our tribal members, and I am working on setting up a meeting with tribal leadership to discuss this issue with them, because I know they're very anxious about it. I just want to say this, Bram. The rule of law will be enforced in the state of Arizona. And what ICE is doing in other states is making us less safe, not more safe. And it's my job as the top law enforcement officer of the state of Arizona to make Arizona more safe, whether that's going after the Mexican drug cartels or protecting Arizonans from unlawful ICE activity. And you know, it's hard to believe that we're even saying this, because this is unprecedented for ICE to be acting like this. But that's the world that we are living in.
I believe during the abortion debate, you created a website or a link where people could report
we have
activities. Are you doing anything like that
Yes,
now?
I'm glad you brought that up, because we have just created a link, and it's live on our website where people can upload to us, send to us videos that they have recorded of ICE activity. We want people to record ICE in the state of Arizona. And that gives us the opportunity to investigate and potentially prosecute misconduct by ICE and violations of state law. So we are encouraging people to send us their videos, and they have every right under the First Amendment to record those videos.
So let's talk about things from ICE's perspective and DHS's perspective. They say there is obstruction going on. And if you have a portal that encourages videos, how do you not encourage, well, do you believe there is any obstruction going on by protesters? And that question, and does this portal encourage that kind of thing by encouraging people to get out there with their cameras?
So far, I have seen no obstruction by anyone in the state of Arizona of ICE or any other, immigration enforcement. What's happening in Minneapolis, I think, is a massive surge of agents into that city that causes the chaos and confusion and anxiety. I mean, when you surge thousands of federal officers into a city, you are and engaged in the kind of sort of thuggish, brutish behavior that ICE is engaged in, including shooting an American citizen in the chest 3 times and then calling her an effing bitch. Then are people going to be upset? You bet they're going to be upset. And by the way, if that ever happened in the state of Arizona, you know what would happen? And I've spoken to multiple law enforcement officials about this, not just in my building, but outside of this building. That individual would, if they were working for a police department, would be put on administrative leave immediately, and then they would probably be fired. If only for those comments that he made about Renee Nicole Good after he shot her dead. So yeah, I mean, look, I mean, well, it's a combustible situation. Let's be clear about that, and it's a combustible situation being caused by ICE right now. Wearing masks. That's my other message to ICE right now. Take the masks off. They were outside my building the other day when the protesters were out there wearing their masks on my property, our property here at the Attorney General's office. It was outrageous. I was outraged and sickened to see them here And so my message to them all across the state is take the masks off. Real cops don't wear masks. And so yeah, I mean, I think that when you talk to law enforcement officials across the state of Arizona, and we do all the time, what they will tell you is the masks are outrageous, and the Renee Nicole Good shooting was a bad shoot. That's what they say.
Go back to the portal. How will that video be used?
Look, I mean, we will be collecting it. We will be, and if there's an incident where ICE engages in assault or murder or unlawful imprisonment, then we will use that to do an investigation. But it's really important because, it's clear from what ICE is doing in Minneapolis that they're not allowing local officials to participate in the investigation. So we're going to need independent sources of information to do our investigation if we have to. I hope we don't have to do these investigations, but I am the top law enforcement official in the state of Arizona, and if I have to do an independent investigation, I need citizens in Arizona, Arizonans, to be providing me information. I need journalists to be providing that information too. We will obviously be looking at what you guys are gathering as well.
What do you have a message, if this time ever comes? Do you have a message to protesters right now about how they should conduct themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Stay peaceful, stay restrained. Be respectful of each other and law enforcement. Don't take the bait, because I think that's definitely going on. They're trying to bait people all across this country. And, if you do that, everything should be okay. And I will protect you. The other thing I want to bring up with you that I'm worried about, that makes Arizona very, very different from almost every other state where this buildup is happening, Bram, is that we're a stand your ground state. We have one of the most expansive stand your ground laws in the entire country that rivals even Florida. We also have a lot of guns in Arizona. We're a gun culture in this state. And, it's kind of a recipe for disaster, because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification, sometimes no identification, wearing plain clothes and masks. And we have a stand your ground law that says that if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger and you're in your house or your car or on your property, that you can defend yourself with lethal force.
I want to be careful with that and understand what you're saying, because you know how that could be interpreted.
Well, but it's the fact. It's the fact that we have a stand your ground law, and we have in other states ununiformed, masked people who can't be identified as police officers. That is a problem. That's why it's so important to have uniforms and to be identified, especially in a state like Arizona that has a stand your ground law. Now, if someone were to, now you're not allowed to shoot peace officers.
So let's put a big pause there and go into that question, because
how do you know they're a peace officer?
Some might say you are giving a license to an individual to shoot a peace officer.
No, absolutely not. But how do you know they're a peace officer? That's the key. And so if there's a situation where somebody pulls out their gun because they know Arizona is a stand your ground state, then it becomes, did they reasonably know that they were a peace officer? I mean, this is a different set of circumstances in the state of Arizona. And so.
But to be clear,
I mean,
it's ironic, because this is a Second Amendment issue.
This is a Second Amendment issue.
But to be clear, you're not telling folks you have license if you are threatened to shoot a peace officer.
No, but again, if you're being attacked by someone who is not identified as a peace officer, how do you know? I mean, if somebody comes at me wearing a mask, by the way, I'm a gun owner. If somebody comes at me wearing a mask and I can't tell whether they're a police officer, what am I supposed to do? Honestly, Bram, look what happened in Minnesota to the two legislators, one of whom was killed by a guy impersonating a police officer. That is why this is so incredibly incendiary. And again, it's a situation being caused by ICE and the federal government. And we are a stand your ground state. So it creates this combustible situation. No, I am not suggesting that people pull out their guns. But this is a don't tread on me state. This is a Second Amendment state. This is a state with a lot of guns in it. And we have a law on the books that the Republican legislature passed that says you have the right to defend yourself if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger, except when it involves a police officer. But we also have a federal government that is putting officers on the street without any identification. That is combustible. I mean, it's got all the makings for, shootout at the OK Corral all over again.
I want to go back to Jerry Sheridan, the sheriff's remarks. He initially said, if ICE does anything wrong, I will go after them. And then he walked that back to say, I am here to protect ICE, defend them, do everything they can. Can you count on Jerry Sheridan to be an ally in anything you're doing?
Well, I liked his first version more than his second version of that answer. Obviously, I think on KTAR he answered from his heart, and from his background as a law enforcement officer, he answered in the same way I just answered you, which is that if there's a violation of the law, that he will enforce the law. That's what a sheriff should do. And that, quite frankly, is, I think, what most sheriffs and most police chiefs are going to do. They are going to try to keep peace, keep order, and if they see somebody being murdered or assaulted by anyone, they will enforce Arizona state law. And that's what they should do. So I think Sheriff Sheridan should have stuck with his first answer.
Adrian Fontes was at an Atlantic event. Were you at that event, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He is talking about making preparations with the Attorney General and the Governor for the potential of a canceled election. What is your role in that, and what kind of preparations are you making if you are?
Yeah, so that's not happening. We're not canceling elections. We're not allowing Donald Trump to cancel any elections in the state of Arizona, period, full stop. And so, we have, as you know, a decentralized system of elections here that is run by counties and by county recorders. But yeah, I am working closely with, especially Adrian Fontes, but we're also beginning to discuss this from a law enforcement standpoint. Because candidly, I do worry about what a federal buildup of ICE agents or other federal agents in Arizona might look like around the election. And so I'm not going to get too far into the details, but I'm worried about it, and we'll be ready for it. We will be ready to protect our elections. We will have elections in Arizona in 2026, and the people of this state will vote.
We may very well, and we're speaking hypothetically right now to be clear, we may very well have elections, but what if those federal law enforcers try to seize the equipment?
They're not seizing anything.
You're going straight to court.
Absolutely, and we will do everything that physically that we can do to prevent them from seizing anything.
Physically means?
It means what it means.
National
No
Guard?
one's taking anything out of our election polling places. No one's getting in there. And it's something to worry about. We saw Donald Trump say on the record that he wishes he had seized election machines in 2020. And so that was very alarming to me, actually. I saw that and I was very alarmed when Donald Trump admitted that he wishes that he had heeded the advice of some of his advisors who wanted him to seize voting machines. That state of mind is very concerning to me, but I will say it's not going to happen, and we will do everything in our power to make sure it doesn't happen.